All right, you nerds wanted it. I'm gonna talk about it. I may or may not have been drinking, so this is gonna be fun. This is the Taskforce podcast, which is actually really good. Episode where they had the two guys from APL, the Airsoft Pro League, on. I believe this aired last week, like early October or so. I have downloaded it, chopped it up to kind of the parts that I wanted to talk about. Hopefully that maybe directs some traffic to the full episode. I will do this thing where I say I post the link in the description below. Is that what I'm supposed to do as like a real YouTuber? I don't know. Yeah, but I've been drinking, so let's talk about this thing. The full episode, I want to say, was like an hour and some change, somewhere around about there. So a backstory to this episode is what guys have been telling me is the gentleman who runs it. His name is Chris. I've actually talked with him on Instagram. He's a really nice guy. To me. A lot of guys don't like the APL because they say Chris is a troll on Facebook. I've seen some of the comments. All right, whatever. I'll talk about that in a second. Right now, a lot of content creators are not wanting to talk about the APL because they don't want to give them a voice or a platform. I understand that. I don't agree with it. So I had a couple really big beers and here we go. Here's one of the first things that I found significant in the episode that I will talk about.
I actually run a mixed martial arts promotion, and I own it. I co-own it with my partner Nick Canobio, Triton Fights. And Strikeforce in Long Island was actually our first sponsor ever.
Nice.
And so that's how I got introduced to Airsoft.
But with that being said,
So I brought that up to say, so that you know, the gentleman Chris, who I don't know if he basically runs the APL. His background is amateur MMA fight promotion. So when you look at the style of promotion that he's doing, stop thinking about it Airsoft. You need to start, in my mind, see where he's coming from. Now let's step away from Airsoft and let's talk about fight promotion. Probably off the top of my head without Googling it, the biggest MMA pay-per-view was the first time Khabib fought Conor McGregor. I believe that did 2.2 mil. You know what? 2.4. It did 2.4 million buys. Now, let's also remember that the reason that it did 2.4 million buys, one of those reasons, is because Conor McGregor threw a handcart through a bus window that Khabib was in. Conor McGregor did some wild antics that a lot of people thought were very negative and put a very bad taste in MMA's mouth to a lot of non-hardcore fans. Say what you want. That fight did 2.4 million pay-per-view buys because Conor McGregor did some wild stuff to draw in attention from the outside world. Say what you want. There's no such thing as bad promotion. There's no such thing as bad attention. Attention is attention. So I say that to say a lot of people in the airsoft world are not used to that style. That sort of kind of wild out, no rules, sort of get attention style. Some people say it's trolling. I call it creative marketing. But a lot of people don't like that. So a lot of people see Chris and kind of what he said to folks online, and they don't like some of those antics. They don't like some of the content that they've put out. There's a lot of things that the APL has put out for their official content that has been, for lack of a better term, either rejected or heavily scrutinized by the airsoft community. I will touch on that in a second. But again, I put this out there to let you know that, this guy, his business brain came from another world that is promoted very differently. I've cornered 7 or 8 amateur fights and 1 professional fight. I have been an official licensed cornerman for sanctioned MMA bouts, and I'm telling you, this is how a lot of these guys work. There's stories, there's build-ups, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not just you're putting out a product and people see. No, you gotta create stories. You gotta create some sort of hype, basically. We don't see that in Airsoft. It's usually, here's the product, the end, buy it. Here's some benefits and features, the end, buy it. So there's, I say all this to let you know, when we are looking at how APL does things, remember that the guy running APL has a different business brain than you. You might not like it, you may like it, it's irrelevant. Let's move on.
Like, Speedsoft is just another niche in Airsoft. It's like people who play Airsoft that are reenactors. Like, you know, it's just another niche. Is it for everybody? No. I'm tuned in to my next question.
The reason I put that in there, as a player, to me, remember, I don't believe in Speedsoft or Milsim. I think if you think in those terms, I think that's a stupid way to think of things. That's my opinion. Now, as someone who manages a field and creates content, I have to adhere to those pre-existing titles for basically search engine optimization for marketing purposes. Those are marketing terms. But again, I don't think those things are real. I think it's all Airsoft. But if I want to sell you a product, the first thing I need to do is create a demographic. I need to segment those demographics. So again, I've put plenty of rants out there where I said, yo, Milsim and Speedsoft, it's not real. It's all the same game. The only thing that changes is where you are, the objective, and what you wear. But it's the same stupid game. Moving on. I don't know why I put this in here. I've been drinking.
Which was what separates your guys' content from non-paid content.
I can literally answer that, and then Jake, you can take it away. I can answer it with one word: continuity.
Continuity.
There's at no point where, from the start of an Airsoft Pro League match to the end of it, do you not know what's going on? There's no point where a player gets eliminated that we don't have that on camera. There's no point that a player gets revived that we don't have that on camera.
Right.
There's no point that an objective gets completed that we don't have that on camera. We can tell the full story of everything that happened in the match. Versus, look, I think that there's some great Airsoft content out there via first-person, GoPro, and maybe even a DSLR, you know?
Right.
But you're always going to have dark spots in the footage. We know this because we filmed this once already.
Yes. And you only get one half. You only get one half.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So the ability to tap into a shootout and get both perspectives. BB's flying over my shoulder. I'm returning fire. I throw a grenade. Where the grenade hit. Where it exploded. You know.
Right.
So I mean, that is the best way for me to describe it. And then I'm sure Jake could even go further.
So right off the gate,
Send it, Jake.
this is something that no Airsoft has ever seen before. And what I mean by that is
Okay, let's keep going.
this is a game show. We are a host. We have on-field reporters.
I'm gonna pause it here. To their point, depending on how specific you want to get, they're actually not right. If you go look at Battle Arena, the style that the APL guys are doing is just Battle Arena in New York. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but if you look at the way Battle Arena segments their stuff together, it's clearly been there's post editing, there's commentary. If you look at kind of the Fight Night stuff KWA is doing, it's similar, but I think Battle Arena is a lot more diverse in its angles. Basically, Battle Arena has been doing this for a year or two. As far as the way they edit and shoot their content and their videos and stuff like that. As far as the format, which we're going to kind of figure out, the format itself is different. I think you already talked on that, but again, I've been drinking, so I'll rewind this in a minute. Initially, I will say this. When APL first came out, I thought it was a conventional, traditional Airsoft tournament, the same way Speed QB is a tournament, the same way MLA is a tournament, the same way Jungle Ball is a tournament. It's not. So if you think this is a tournament that if you look at APL in the same context that you would look at Speed QB in the space of competition, it's not this. It's not the same. It's not a sport. It's a game show. And I think for the purpose of, I don't know, content consumption, for the purpose of kind of understanding what it is, it's a game show. And they're going to talk about American Gladiators throughout this piece. And that's correct. Because if we remember, there's sports. So when we think of sports, we think of the NFL, the MLB, NHL, NBA. I can go onto Google and look up the official rules of the NFL. I can look at all the rules, just like how I can look up vehicle code for the state that I live in. If we go to American Gladiators, that doesn't exist. That way, and I bring that up because if you go back, well, they wiped their Instagram because whatever. If you go back and look at some of the earlier posts, as soon as I saw this, I immediately started asking for the complete rule set. Well, the reason that didn't exist is because it wasn't relevant to this. No one asks for the specific format rules of American Gladiators. No one cares how much that dude necessarily weighs. No one cares about where you can and can't put your hands. So this is a game show. Sports entertainment, I think, is the better word. If we look at like pro wrestling, it's more of like that game shows. Now, I don't want to say pro wrestling in the sense that that APL is scripted. It's clearly not scripted. This is clearly live, and it has a competitive aspect. But it's sports entertainment to the fact that it's not the NFL where there's a referee and they're stopped and you can look up the exact rules, the same thing, and you can study the rules and be your own self-taught referee. It's a game show. That once I came to that conclusion, I was like, oh, okay, that's fair, that's fine. But the style of content isn't unique necessarily. Again, depending on how specific you want to get with their production stuff. Because if you go look at the tryouts, it's pretty good. Like, the quality was pretty dang good for not having like a professional television set or a movie set crew on there. Yo, the quality and the production value is not great, but for Airsoft content, dude, that's high level for Airsoft content. I will give them that. Now we can move on. What was I doing? I've been drinking.
This is a game show. We are a host. We have on-field reporters. We have interviews of the players who actually played in the game. You're going in depth into the character. You're getting to know them as well. This whole game show, this is a big entertainment package where
these
everyday airsofters who now have a platform to aspire to compete at a pro level, but now competing against
I'll talk about that.
Military and law enforcement, people that are trained, and now the airsofters are playing against them.
Yes and no. From a marketing standpoint, I understand what they're doing. They're trying to put trained guys against airsoft. That doesn't always work. I'm telling you, that doesn't always work. Because you can't say that a cop off the street or a guy that was group or whatever is on the same level as a kid that plays a game. There's a reason why the Call of Duty videos of like a SWAT member versus a pro gamer, why that's so popular and why the gamer always smashes the professional. Those two worlds don't correlate. I'm sorry. They don't. I know because I was heavily involved in both worlds. I can take 14-year-old kids right now, put them against the guys that I was in the Army and I was a cop against, and those kids that play the game of Airsoft are going to smash the professionals because they know the game better. Now, conversely, if I give my guys real guns and real ammo and put them against teenagers, those kids are gonna poo themselves because there's more on the line. I know guys that have been in real firefights that kind of act a little bit differently because it's a game. They go, "This is a game, whatever." It's like sparring versus live fighting. There's always gonna be a little bit of a mindset difference, but for the sake of marketing, this makes perfect sense. Let's do pros versus Joes. And they go on to say that later in the episode. It's a pros versus Joes thing. But to think that you can take professionals and put them in a gaming or a sporting environment that is similar to their profession and think that it's going to be, you know, oh, these guys are going to be so much better. No, they're not. Because the two don't correlate. Because there are semantical differences that are very significant, in my opinion, in the execution of the event itself. What do I know? It's not like I've pointed guns at people for a living.
This house team, which is similar to the American Gladiators.
See?
Big show American
See?
Gladiators. And now you have these teams competing against this house team. This house team is put in place to ensure that there is no cheating, no hit calling. Because the house team, they are the fixed villains on the show.
Right.
They have no skin in the game.
This is where I do like what APL did. So instead of a normal this team versus this team, they put a constant in there for consistency's sake. So hey, how do these 5 teams rate against this one team? Okay, that's kind of cool. That's the only thing in the details of that is, and this is really where you really have to pick your house guys very well. And I assume Chris has done that because he knows what he's doing from a marketing standpoint, a business standpoint. That house team has to perform for team 1 in the same way that they performed in team 2. If I am in this position the whole time against team 1 and I start in this position against team 2, the continuity is gone. There's no consistency. Because if you're going to say that house team is static, then they have to perform basically 90% of the same way every time. I assume if they said they have professionals, those professionals already understand that because they've been involved in professional training events and they've been up for, and they understand you have to give the same stimulus in the same amount of way to create that consistency in a training event. I assume that's taking place, and I assume that is a conversation that APL has had with their guys, and that is why they went with professionals as a house team, because they're going to be more reliable than a bunch of kids to do whatever. Picking Op 4 in a law enforcement or a military training is such a pain in the butt, because you have to get guys that will play the role and not want to just smash the team. You have to find guys that are going to play the Op 4 role. That's one of the hardest things. I'm going to tell you from almost a little over a decade of professional experience. It's one of the hardest things to do is get that consistency. Again, I assume they have that with the house team. That's why they went with that instead of a bunch of stupid dorky airsofters. Yeah, you're all dorks. Shut up. If you're watching this video, you're a dork.
You're going to see stuff where in airsoft you only know of what? Grenades and electric guns, gas blowback guns. You're going to see players with shields. You're going to see players with unconventional weaponry, unconventional tactics. All you do.
What's an this is picky on my. First of all, Battle Arena does shields. I don't know if they do grenades. What's an unconventional tactic? Oh, you mean in the concept like unconventional if you're like a casual rental airsofter? Okay, that makes sense. You just mean stuff that the casual player's never done. What are you going to do that's unconventional? What's an unconventional weapon? Is someone going to have, like, a mace? Because that would be cool. Like, what are we going to do? Someone going to take, like, a PVC ball, pack it full of Nerf darts, and then shoot it at someone as an unconventional weapon? That, like, what's unconventional in airsoft? Okay, now you have my attention. Chris, DM me what's going to be unconventional. How's that? Like, yo, I want to see what's going to be, like, what wild stuff are these dudes going to do? That would be kind of cool. What's an unconventional airsoft weapon?
You spend money to a sport, and only a top 5 content creators or a top 5 companies make the money in airsoft. With something like the Airsoft Pro League, establishing this league, the everyday airsoft player has a higher level to aspire to.
You know, on the internet.
Sorry. This is what, and we're gonna see this as APL develops. And as they kind of get their feet under them as far as like what content should we cut. Yo, he is so right. Jake is, I think that was Jake's voice. Is that his name, Jake? I'm sorry, Jake, if I butchered your name. I've been drinking. He's right. Like a lot of the content creators, it is really hard to propel yourself as a content creator. It takes a lot of time, energy, and resources. Oh, that wasn't that bad. I must be sobering up. Nope, I'm okay. He's right. He's 100% right. So, and again, we're going to see this as the APL develops. One of the things that they want to do with this is give the average airsofter a platform of attention. Yo, SpeedQB has done the same thing. If you look at SpeedQB and like those player profiles that they do, realistically, if we're being real, if we look at boxing, if we look at the UFC, with the my drunk brain cannot think of it. The embedded episodes that they do, or like the 30 for 30. Oh, my phone's charged. The 30 for 30 stuff that they do for sports, or the specific the athlete profiles that they do in various sports. That's easy content. They're able to launch those individuals using the platform of the organization. They create content that benefits and highlights the individual and go, yo, this guy he started at the bottom, now he's here. Follow him on Instagram. That's great. Bravo. That's awesome. I hope they are very successful at doing that. They're doing that, or I assume they're doing that with Tristan. I'm going to tell you right now. Chris, look at me. Look at me, Chris. Right here. Jake, look at me. Right here. It's just you and me and the internet. You better come correct when you talk to Tristan. That is a nice young man. You better buy him a delicious lunch. Keep buying him delicious lunches. Give him some new material. I'm going to come out there. I'm going to heel hook you. Even though you're a purple belt, I'm a white belt. But I got 2 stripes. Those 2 stripes are going to come for you if you screw over my adorable little Tristan. What happened? I blacked out. Yeah, anyway, I really hope they're successful at launching those individuals. Because we've seen that SpeedQB has had success with that. That is also content that they can create for their own Instagram, YouTube, stuff like that. So I assume they will sort of mimic that same content style that SpeedQB and professional sports have done. And yo, player profile, this is this dude. Here's some spiels on him, I guess. I hope they do it.
And I control with the best of them. I mean, Jake yells at me sometimes. The reason why we even added the word pro is...
Okay. There's been some criticisms of the APL that a lot of guys don't like the APL because of Chris's trolling. That's fair. Doth I detect a hint of Brooklyn, mayhaps the Bronx, of his dialect in that accent? Could just be Brooklyn represents. I don't know. I don't know what part of New York that fine gentleman is from. I troll too. Like, everyone trolls. Kind of. Go look at the stuff I say on Reddit. Anytime someone says, hey, I'm looking to start into Airsoft, what should I buy? I tell them not to start Airsoft. It's part of the game, kids. If you are critical of a product, it's going to be natural that the guy that is in control of that product is going to clap back. Like, yo, you said his stuff was whack. Why do you expect him just to sit there and take it? Like, he's going to clap back, and there's going to be a back and forth. That's going to happen. Sorry, it's gonna happen. So I don't really, I don't hold what Chris says and I don't attach it to the APL because it's not the APL's account saying those things, it's the guy running the APL. But for the sake of public perception, yo, anything I do, if I were to get in a fight with some dude at the mall tomorrow and it got out, I'm immediately going to be associated with the Airsoft Ministry, and KWA might get thrown in there too, because I represent, to some degree, I represent those brands. That's just public perception. You can't really do anything about that. Yo, Chris, keep trolling. Who cares? I don't care. I think it's kind of funny. Kind of. It's let's be real. It's amateur level trolling, if I'm being real. He's kind of like bro level, like, all right, if you want to talk smack, let's just fight. Like, oh, come on. We can't use we can't use creative words. We can't like get creative with the language. We can't throw some hilarious memes in there. Like, Chris, my guy, you've got to up your meme game, son.
Exclusive. The first episode of Airsoft Pro League will be for free, and it will drop at the end of October.
Yes. Perfect. So I saw the tryout episode on YouTube. Now, the criticism of that was a lot of dudes are like, yo, this production value is whack. Why should I pay $25 for this? Their response was, yo, this is the tryouts. relax. This is not like the full spiel. This is just like half a spiel, like 50% spiel. It's not what the full seasonal production value is going to look like. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair criticism. How you look in sparring is not how you're going to look in a fight. How you look in a dress rehearsal is not how the set's going to look the night of the performance.
I mean, let's talk about real quick too. That number $24.99.
Oh boy.
We didn't pull that out of the sky. So
That's good.
We landed at a $24.99 price because
Here's where I get critical.
KWA, which is great partners of ours, great sponsorship partners of ours, actually gave us the Ronin T10,
Correct.
fully hooked up, two-tone, 1 of 50.
Correct.
The Ronin 47 that
Correct.
just dropped.
Fire.
We have an SSG-1.
Correct.
And
I have one.
we have a complete loadout from Viper Tactical.
I don't know who that is, but good for them. God bless them.
Up for grabs in that $24.99 price. So we figured, all right, look, we can't let this thing go for $10 and not recoup any of that money because KWA, again, great partners of ours, all can go for $10, and we figured, all right, look, we can't let this thing go for $10 and not recoup any of that money because
don't worry.
KWA,
Let the man speak.
Great partners of ours, all of these companies that sponsored us, great partners of ours.
Correct.
But it cost a lot of money to produce this thing, so it was like the juice had to be worth the squeeze, right?
And the people who
Burp. Okay. Here's what I got out of that statement. Without the give, so if they didn't get any partnerships, if there are no gun giveaways, there's no Viper Tactical, the product itself, what he just said was this is actually worth $10, but because of the sprinkles and the frosting, it's a $25 cake. That's what this says to me. Did anyone else pick up on that? If you tell me that something is $25, I'm going to go, okay, that's fine. But if you say, hey, this is $25 because of all these add-ons. Oh, well, I'm not interested in those add-ons. So what's the price? Oh, $10.99. What? So, going forward, rhetorical question. What were to happen if, let's say for the sake of argument, all their sponsors pull back and APL is only the APL and the only thing they have is their raw product of the what will be the second season in this argument? Is the second season still going to be $25.99 if there are no giveaways? Or is the second season going to go down to $10.99 because he just said that the APL is worth $10.99 but it's worth $25 total with all these add-ons? We see where I'm going with this? Do I need another beer? I don't really need another beer. We see where we're going with that? Is that no? Crazy? Okay. Moving on.
really have a problem with $24.99. There's a ton of patches out there that cost $24.99 that have got
Let him finish.
Asian chick holding the flashbang. You'd be like, hell yeah, I'm buying that. Put it on my gear. $24.99.
If you pay for Netflix.
This is not reflective on the APL because the Taskforce podcast, and I freaking love those guys, you can't justify the price of a product by saying, well, look at all the other stupid stuff you buy. Like that. That's not salesmanship. That's a horrible way to market them. But the good news is that the APL didn't say that. That was just the opinions of the Taskforce podcast. I assume Taskforce podcast opinions do not reflect the APL or any of its subsidiaries. Moving on. But you cannot sell a product by saying, well, this is $25. Look at all the other stupid crud you spend $25. Like, no, stop it. You can't. That's not a benefit and feature of a product is not look at all the dumb stuff you buy for the same amount. Like, you buy pants that way? Like, do you buy a car? Like, what do you buy? And one of the determining, like, part of your consumer buying behavior is, oh, I spend my money on stupid stuff all the time, so I'll spend my money on this stupid thing too. Like, no, that's not retail. That's not retail management at all. Moving on.
You pay for Hulu, you pay for Spotify, Apple Premium Music, whatever. Think of that as your monthly bill.
Right.
You have to pay that per month. That's $60, $70 depending on who you are. So for $24.99 for
Let it finish. He's a nice man.
season of some
I
of the
did
most
censor out the profanity, yes.
hits you'll ever get.
Plus, if you don't like it and you think it, you still got entered for a giveaway where you could win something.
Nope. You cannot compare one season of a show to Netflix, Hulu, and all the other streaming services out there that have thousands of shows out there with dozens of seasons. For $10.99 alone at Netflix, go and look at how much stuff, how much content I get, how many full seasons of different shows I get out, how many full series, how many different complete series of shows I get for $10. You cannot compare that to a $25 single season product. You can't do that. You can't expect me to buy one season of South Park for $25 and go, oh, it's okay. You get that one season. It's a good season. Well, time out. First of all, we don't know if the content is going to be quality. We haven't seen the first season. The first episode doesn't drop for a couple-ish more weeks because right now it's almost midnight on the 16th of October. There's an X factor there that we, the consumer, haven't yet had addressed. Was, okay, you said the tryouts and all these other things aren't the full thing. What's the full thing look like? Oh, you're going to give us a taste of full episode of the full thing at the end of the month. Well, cool. I expect after they drop that first episode, I assume their numbers are going to jump through the roof because I have full faith and confidence that this is going to be a great product. Is there some debate on is the market ready, blah, 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 blah. Sure. I do not doubt that they have a quality product. I don't. Because again, Chris is coming to this with a big brain. He understands what quality content needs to look like. He understands promotional. He understands these things. I assume. Moving on.
Saying being an Airsofter, we wanted it to be almost the price of a mid-cap magazine.
Bro, that's all you had to say. Granted, I understand that the Taskforce guys said that. And where is the content? Where is the Instagram and the Facebook posts that equate it to the stuff that you already buy in Airsoft? Yo, if you would have just said for $25, you can basically support this starting company, blah, 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 and it'll last longer than any mid-cap. That's perfect. That's the perfect. Chris, you can have that for free. Throwing that out there. Just expanding on what Taskforce said, so I am borrowing that concept, repackaging it, giving it to you, my friend Chris. Repackage that, go $25. Mid-cap costs this much money. You lose it, usually within 6 months. This digital content costs the same amount of money, you never lose it. Because it's digital. Perfect. Do that. Do that, bro. Don't relate it to Netflix. Don't try and put yourself in the same boat as like these. And I know APL's not doing this. It's just Taskforce guys trying to get the average customer to understand like $25 isn't that big a deal. I understand that's what they're trying to do. The execution needs refinement. And my refinement is brought to you by Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. Moving on. I love all you guys.
I don't know if you guys know this, but negative press is still press. So
Told you.
more people
Our
now are
algorithm
talking
is
about
going
APL.
crazy.
Right. More people are talking about APL now than they probably were before.
Correct.
Like everybody was so pissed.
Keep doing it. No. Keep doing it.
Their biggest rebuttal was like, they're gonna get ripped off. Well, no. Why would I let them rip it off earlier than we need to? I
Exactly.
don't understand.
This is where it gets kind of silly.
Like, why? I could make you a mini video on Instagram and tell you what our next podcast was going to be about. But why would you want to
Why
watch
would
the
you
next
watch
podcast?
it?
Because it's called a trailer.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
that's pretty fucking stupid in my opinion.
Oh, I missed a bad word. Whatever.
To expand on that, it's like also like from the game modes perspective too. Is like you know, if we give it to you now, you're not going to watch it, A.
Right.
Not
because
correct.
and then also, you want me to sit here on your podcast and describe with words, what am I, Socrates? See,
What? But you are giving it away. You gave it away at the tryouts, to partially, and you're gonna give it away at the end of the month. So you've agreed that at some point you are gonna give it away for free. It's gonna be in the form of a sample. Also, there's not a whole lot of unique ways you could play Airsoft. I understand. Here's the other thing. What's to stop someone from ripping them off after the first season? So let's say I purchased, and I purchased the full season. Chris, don't you dare refund me or trying to give me anything free. You let me pay for my money so I could support you guys because I flippin' love you. What's to stop me from paying $25, $24.99, I'm sorry, watching the whole first season, going to my field or an indoor field or partnering with a field and recreating the whole thing? What's to legally stop? Nothing. There's nothing from legally stopping you of getting ripped off. And look at Speed QB. How many fields are doing speed tournaments? I did one at my field. The same rules, because you cannot legally protect this stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to play football. It would be illegal. Look at the company in Spain that was making knockoff Speed QB gear. There's no legal ramifications because they're in another country. There's nothing you can do in Airsoft. In general, there's very little you can do to prevent yourself from getting ripped off. You would have to patent or trademark your entire format. Now, the name, correct. I cannot start up Airsoft Pro League in California. That is a protected, registered, legal trademark, and I can't do that. I can call it James's Airsoft Pro League or the Caber Pro League, or something. I can put Pro League in there. And then what? Then we American Airsoft Pro League. Is it a ripoff? That is a clear rip. Is there a confusingly similar standard? Basically, yeah. Is it enforceable in court? Not really, no. How much money are you going to have to spend to take that in court? So I say that to say, don't not do something because you're afraid. If you're afraid of someone ripping you off, what are you going to do? Are you going to not go into business? You'll let these kids see what you're doing and let them see the culmination of all your efforts and all your hard work, and let me give you some of my flippin' money, which I did the other night. Fun fact, that was not a drunk purchase. I bought the APL 2 nights ago. Very sober. There we go. Scratch my mustache and we push on.
amazing questions. See, these are the type of questions that's going to build an audience. These are the type of questions that I want to be asked.
When this is semantical, this is nothing. When you go on someone's show, you don't really have a choice with what they're going to ask you. This is why the ASAP thing got torn down, because they didn't like the way it went. Now again, are they going to post that episode again? I don't know. There's a lot of guys that don't want to give these dudes any attention. I'm not here to say that's right. I'm not here to say that's wrong. I'm here to say this, behind the scene, this is most likely why Chris made this statement, is because of his bad experience with the ASAP guys. Again, if someone asks you a question, and a specific question, and you give them, my understanding was they were asking specific questions, they were answered with ambiguity, they didn't appreciate the ambiguity, and it just became a big old dumpster fire. To the extent, think of how bad an episode would have to be for an Airsoft podcast to go, dude, delete it. It's got to be pretty bad. Again, I can't say with certainty. I didn't actually see it. I'm hoping they throw that thing up there. I don't think they're gonna. I don't know. We'll see.
The last podcast that we were on,
ASAP.
Off air, they were one way. As soon as it came on, it turned
I can't.
into like an attack.
I got nothing.
Fest,
I got nothing.
When I didn't want to give them the answers that they wanted,
When he didn't want to give them, Meaning, he knew how to answer the question. He chose not to. That's how I interpret that small statement. So, there's a back and forth. So there's two sides to every story, basically. Whatever. It's not a big deal. APL's still gonna make tons of money. Maybe.
Went left. But anyway, and the reason why we can call them pros,
Here we go.
in MMA, they get paid. They made $5,000 in cash and prizes to win the Airsoft Pro League.
And they have that stamp of approval.
Okay. That is not why you're able to call yourself a professional in the fight game. Was this the intent behind Chris's statement? I don't think so. I can go right now and register as a professional fighter, and I'm a professional fighter. That's it. I never have to fight ever, because in the state of California, for boxing and for MMA specifically, you can either register as an amateur fighter or a professional fighter. I have cornered 6 or 7 amateur MMA bouts. I have cornered 1 professional MMA bout. There is a different rule set in the amateurs versus what there is in the pros. In the amateur MMA game in California, if it is your first 3 fights, you will wear shin pads in your first 3 fights. If I am 2-0, my opponent is, if I am 3-0 or 4-0 and I go against someone with less than 3 fights, I am going to wear shin pads. In amateur MMA in California, you may not strike with elbows. You may not knee the head. You may not use knee bars. You may not heel hook in amateur MMA. Professional MMA is different because there's different licenses. Just like how having a license for a Prius is different than having a license for a tow truck, having a license as an amateur fighter is different than having an amateur license as a professional, or having a license as a professional fighter. There are fighters that are professionals that make booty for money. Booty. There are fighters in the UFC that still have full-time jobs. If we're going to get semantical about the UFC argument, only really the guys that are in the top 10 are making any kind of real money. Maybe top 15, but if you look at the contracts, some of their first, like the contender contracts, those guys are not making a lot of money. They're only getting paid when they fight. And they're not, you can't take sponsorships, and you're not making real money until you get to be a big name. Realistically, in the top 10%. Even then, go back and look at Nico Montoya, the very first women 125 champion. She's not balling out. She was an MMA. Go look at Wei Li Zhang, the Chinese, the woman from China. She is the current UFC Women's 125 champion. She goes into Walmart right now. No one knows who she is. And I assume she's not making a whole lot of money because she's not a draw. So I understand where Chris is trying to go in the sense of the fight game. But because the fight game is so different, because there's legal licenses and all this other thing, it makes sense from a general standpoint. But if you really look at the business dynamics of the fight game, here's another interesting thing I'm going to throw out there. Go look at the Jake Paul KSI, the second fight. Jake Paul and KSI were headlining the main event on their first and second professional was the first one a pro fight, or was the first one anyway, the second fight that they had, they made boat tons of money. You go back down and you look at the lineup of guys. You look at Billy Joe Saunders, made 3/4 of what KSI and Logan Paul were making. Billy Joe Saunders is one of the most dangerous men on the planet. He is a professional boxing champion. He didn't make as much as those 2 YouTubers. So but he was professional, but they were professional. Wait a minute. Because there's a marketing thing. You go down and you look at the guys that open the card, or you look at who is that the 21-year-old kid from Mexico that had been fighting professionally in Mexico since he was like 16. That kid ain't balling out, but he's a professional fighter though. Well, this professional fighter is not going to make the same amount of money as this professional. Yo, dudes, the guy that gets picked last in the NFL draft is still making light years more than what most MMA fighters are making after their third or fourth contract. So just because you're a professional to me, a professional athlete is able to completely sustain themselves off the sport, or there's, what surrounds, sponsorships, and maybe they get some show stuff. But if you can't completely sustain your daily income off the sport, to me, you're not a professional. So there is a legal definition of a professional, and then there's a community definition of what a professional is. But they're saying if you compete in our event, then you're a professional. Wait, I don't know who any of those guys are. So if Demo never competes in the APL, is Demo not a professional? If Navrich does not compete in the APL, is Navrich not a professional? If WAG Entertainment, OC Airsoft, Jet the Desert Fox, Leah, if none of these people ever give the APL the time of day, are those people not professionals? Demo is probably, next to Navrich, I will say Demo is probably the most successful professional airsofter there is. You look at his YouTube, you look at his Twitch, and when he's got his own merchandise line. He is on one of the biggest, probably the most world-renowned team in the game. He travels to Europe, to other countries to play airsoft? Are you kidding me? But in order for him to be a professional, he's got to go compete and win the APL. Timeout. Wakanda? Timeout. That's not actually realistically true. And it's cash and prizes. Wait a minute. What's the cut? Is it like $500 or $1,000 in cash and then a bunch of other money in prizes? Like, what are the specifics? How much in cash, how much in prizes? $5,000 ain't professional, bro. Now, if we do this every week or every month, and then every individual on the winning team gets $5,000, okay, you got a dog in that fight. But I don't recall that being brought up in this episode. Now, you can go to this episode, which you should, listen to the whole dang thing, which I hope they pack with some YouTube. Oh, they can't. Damn it, they're not monetized yet. You can tell your friends to subscribe to Taskforce Podcast and watch this episode so they can monetize, so they can make some stupid money. Granted, I've only made like less than $20 from YouTube, so on that. But their definition of a professional airsofter has merit, but I have so that can be a definition of a pro. That's fine if this is sustainable. We have no idea if there's going to be a second season of the APL. God willing, there is one, but we have no idea what the APL is going to do in the future. This might not be around for a second season. I don't know. Maybe this will be around for 10 seasons. Who knows? But this is a lot of $25 to cover the cost of what they're doing. Yo, they're selling blood, they're selling stock, they're putting lien on the houses. I don't know what they're doing to cover the cost of their production, but for the cost of their production, and it does look significantly professional in my opinion, based on just their tryout alone, it looks pretty good. I don't know what the field is charging them. Maybe they're doing some co-promotion thing where they're giving it I don't know. Yo, you're giving dudes 5 racks and you're only bringing in 25 a pop for a full season? Okay. They must have, you had to affront a lot of money in this. But I don't know. I don't know what their overhead is. I hope this is around, because I hope this works. What I would like to see them do is more player profiles on I want to see them expand their YouTube and their Twitch. Realistically, their YouTube. That's what I want to see. I want to see more YouTube content similar to the UFC. Chris, you know what I'm talking about. I want player profiles. I want team profile. Literally copy what SpeedQB is doing. It's working for a reason. Highlight your players. Highlight your teams. Highlight yourselves. Great. That sounds like fun. But expand that YouTube. It'll bring some money. Obviously not a lot. I mean, let's be real. Let's look at my revenue right now. I think I'm at $20. Can we focus on? Hey, I'm at 1,100 subscribers. Yay! That's still not a lot. In the last 28 days with a 1-day delay, I'm at $21.61. Most of that is because I took the power-ups video and just packed it with ads. Okay? Is the Airsoft world ready for paid Airsoft content? I personally don't think so. That doesn't make me right or wrong. I personally don't think that the average Airsofter is going to buy into this. Now, can you create some creative marketing teams where it's like, yo, mid-cap versus this? Here is a segment of the official tryouts for the Airsoft Pro League Season 1. Now, what they have said in the past is that this is not what a full season, so this is not what you're paying for. This is like a piece of what you'll be paying for, meaning which I would assume that they mean like the quality is going to be better. There's something, but what they have said in the past, that if I read the comments online correctly, was what you're going to be paying for is a better quality product than this, what they've released. That's okay. That's fair. That makes sense. Let's look at it for a few seconds.
Paintball player. You can see
We have player profiles on the side, teams, countdown clock, how many balloons are up here. The balloon thing I kind of like. That's kind of neat. They have different deals up here, different player angles. They have pretty good commentary. His commentary is going to be pretty on point because Chris has a background in fighting, so he's going to understand commentary and kind of like live brain play-by-play stuff. I'm telling you, from the fighting, I think commentary is hard to do. But this is what we're looking at here. Contractor cams, Airsoft Pro League, got some different angles, some player POV. They have a drone in here, which is pretty cool. Like, this is pretty, like, there's the drone. Whee! Goodbye. This is pretty legit looking. This is pretty cool. Let's go to the battle arena. They have commentary. Here's kind of the players, who is alive, who's not. Here's this team. Here's this team. Here's some different angles. Here's a countdown timer. We're at 1080. Let's go back to some player stuff. He's got a shield. He's got Adidas because that's what they do in Europe. But they have different, so I assume this is a static cam. But I say that to say, I thought I was already subscribed to them. I bring that up to say, the style that they're trying isn't necessarily new. It's improved, I'll give them that. This is an improved version of Battle Arena from what I've seen just in the tryouts. But it's not new. So someone else at Battle Arena has tried this. Not a huge fan of Battle Arena. It could also be because it's mostly in Europe, and look, we're Americans. We do things better here in America. Do I hope they're going to succeed? Yeah. Am I going to keep buying their season so I can support them? Yes. Are you going to see me in any APL collabs? Nope. I don't have any time. I will APL. Chris did hit me up. He was like, yo, like, if we'd love to do some stuff with you. Like, I got school online. I am transitioning into field management, which is about to get a lot busier. Video is going to come on that soon. I have my personal life that I'm trying to manage. I have video projects personally I'm trying to do. I still have videos that I haven't even shot yet. I have KWA stuff that I had a meeting with KWA the other day. Apparently, I have some more video projects that are going to be coming up soon. So that, and look, I'll be honest, like the game show thing, I don't know. I don't know, like, if I would like it, if I'd be any good at it. I'm not a game show guy. Like, I need tournaments. I need to see the full rule set. Like how when I create my tournaments, I need to see your subcategory, like, yo, what are the classes? What are the I need to see all the details. If I have a single question about the format, it's not my thing. Well, the reason it's not my thing is I'm an old school tournament. Now we're saying old school. I'm a tournament, like, an old school tournament guy. Like, I need conventional, like, speed style tournaments. They need to be regulated. So I'm an NFL guy. I'm not like an entertainment guy necessarily. I don't know, maybe that changes. I don't know. Maybe. Could be fun. Also, I'm out on the West Coast. Like, yo, there's gotta be way more creative people than me. Like, yo, if you're hitting me up for collabs, like, why?
Caber, who the f*** are you, nerd?